Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the first ever Future of Healthcare Conclave powered by Honeywell. My name is Aditi Vesh, and I lead Honeywell's Made in India for India new product development initiatives within the Safety and Productivity Solutions business. So, before we look into the future, I'd like to take a moment to go back in time. Today, October 28th, marks the 107th birth anniversary of American virologist Jonas Salk, a man who battled another virus in another epidemic. Dr. Salk worked in a time when hundreds and thousands of children died each year from contracting the polio virus. He changed the course of public health globally when he developed and released the world's first safe and effective polio vaccine. In a way, the polio vaccine transformed the future of public health in 1955. In the present, all of us have been battling the coronavirus pandemic for almost 2 years now. What has never been more apparent in the fight against a deadly virus is the need for another transformation in our healthcare system. A system in which faster, better, affordable, and accessible are no longer just nice to have, but instead they're imperatives for ourselves and our families. Equally, over the last 2 years, we have seen an incredible acceleration in the transformation of healthcare delivery, driven primarily by digitization and digital technology. In fact, as you all know, India crossed a major milestone last week with more than 1 billion vaccine doses delivered. Wow, that number is staggering, and in my view, it's a testament to our openness to a technology transformation in healthcare. I imagine that administering 1 billion doses in 9 months could not have been possible without the enablement of technology at every step of the vaccine delivery value chain, from the safe mass movement of vaccines around the country to the issuance of digital vaccination certificates to each and every vaccinated citizen. Speaking more broadly, today in India, we clock in at more than 3,000 healthcare startups engaged in developing new and disruptive solutions that have the potential to bring speed and agility to our overburdened healthcare systems and bring relief to our overburdened care providers. We're in the midst of a transformation in the way we approach the healthcare ecosystem, both as providers and patients. Ultimately, we must agree that enabling technology advancements and adoption is the fastest path to enabling better health outcomes for the Indian population. The future of technology in healthcare is really bright, and it's now. We at Honeywell are thrilled that you've joined us today to ignite this discussion and build the future of healthcare in India. Our distinguished speakers and panelists and our audience of more than 500 represent practitioners, providers, entrepreneurs, and policymakers. I am, as I'm sure you are, extremely excited to hear from our country's best and brightest healthcare industry leaders as they address 2 key themes. First, the opportunities and challenges in the healthcare ecosystem in India, and second, unlocking value for patients and providers through the adoption of real-time connected healthcare. We have an action-packed 2-hour agenda today. Let me spend a minute talking through the flow of today's events. We begin with 3 highly anticipated keynote speeches, and I'm fairly confident that each of you who's here with us is a big fan of either Padma Shri Dr. Devi Shetty or Mr. Gautam Khanna or Padma Shri Mohandas Pai. The keynotes will be followed by a glimpse into Honeywell's real-time health monitoring system presented by none other than Honeywell's own Ajaya Mutaganahalli. We will finish the conclave with a lively panel discussion on the topic of revolutionizing healthcare for superior patient care, led by our country General Manager, K. Nandakumar. Our first keynote speaker is Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty, Chairman of Narayana Hridayalaya Limited, who will be sharing his insights on digital disruption in healthcare. A cardiac surgeon of worldwide repute and a successful entrepreneur, Dr. Shetty is highly respected for his near-revolutionary ideas for grassroots reforms in the healthcare sector. His visionary leadership to make quality healthcare affordable for all has drawn global recognition. Dr. Shetty is the recipient of several prestigious awards, including the Padma Bhushan, the Padma Shri, the Economist Innovation Award, and the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, the Financial Times ArcelorMittal Boldness in Business Award, and the Nikkei Asia Prize for Economic and Business Innovation. He has also been awarded honorary doctorates from the University of Minnesota and the University of Mysore and IIT Madras. With immense pleasure, let me invite Dr. Devi Shetty for his insights.
Hi, I'm extremely grateful to the organizers for the opportunity. I would like to talk about my experience, especially the predictions for the future in healthcare. 100 years from now, if somebody is going to write the history of evolution of healthcare, there will be two chapters. First one was BC, second is about AC. BC is before COVID and AC is after COVID. Everything what we do in healthcare will undergo dramatic change. And I will try to give you a glimpse of what those changes are about. First thing, I would like all of you to know that healthcare industry is the largest industry in the world. It's more than $8.5 trillion industry compared to IT, which is $3.5 trillion. Automobile is $2 trillion. Oil and natural gas is $2 trillion. We spend less money for food. Agro industry is only $8 trillion. Healthcare is $8.5, $8.6 trillion. But the sad thing is, even if after spending $8.5 trillion, less than 20% of the world's population has access to safe, affordable, accessible, secondary, tertiary level healthcare. This is pitiable. Now, is it going to remain the same? No, it is going to be disrupted. And I am optimistic and I'm hopeful that within the next 5 to 10 years' time, India will become the first country in the world to dissociate healthcare from affluence. India will prove to the world that the wealth of the nation has nothing to do with the quality of healthcare its citizens are going to enjoy. Now, some of the glimpses I have is about, I predict that smart software, electronic medical record, will make smarter diagnosis than doctors in the next few years, and it will become legally mandatory for the doctors to get the second opinion from the software before starting the treatment within maybe 7 years' time. I'm giving this 5-year, 7-year time frame. I know it's going to happen much earlier than that, and some of that has happened. I'm giving that long time frame because I do not want my professional colleagues to shoot me down. But it is going to happen. It's inevitable. It will become mandatory that we use those technologies. I'll give an example. The Chief Justice of Uttarakhand High Court 5 years ago mandated that in the state of Uttarakhand, no doctor can prescribe on a paper. All prescriptions should be on a digital format. Unfortunately, they couldn't implement it because there was no digital tool available. All I am trying to say is that this is the way things are going to change. Now, why digitization is important? Digitization will make healthcare safer for the patient. Healthcare, you may think that hospitals are very safe places for the patients. It is not. If 200 patients get admitted to American hospitals, some of the safest hospitals on the planet, 1 in 200 dies due to medical error, not medical negligence. Getting admitted to an American hospital is 10 times riskier than skydiving. Why healthcare is not that safe, especially in the hospital? Mainly because all the sick people are in one building and there is no implementation of the process, protocol, and all their strategies of managing particular disease, because as doctors, we all have our own style of treating patients. I'll give you a simple comparison. When you admit one of your loved ones to a hospital, you always want to know which doctor is going to take care of my patient. Whereas when you board a plane, you never ask which pilot is going to fly the plane, what is his experience, because we take for granted that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Yes, they know, because irrespective of the experience, no pilot can have his own style of flying the plane. They have to fly the plane in the same manner and record everything what they did, so that in case of something going wrong, there is a record to know what went wrong. But that doesn't happen in healthcare industry across the world, because nearly 80% of the hospitals uh, in this world do not have electronic medical records. Some of the developed countries do not have electronic medical records. So why electronic medical records are not available in developing country like ours is mainly because of the high cost. Now, if you pay high cost, will you get a fantastic electronic medical record? No. Some of the billion-dollar electronic medical records of the United States of America are one of the top causes of physician burnout. Physicians hate the electronic medical record, but they have no choice. They have to use it. Why they hate it? Because doctors have their own strengths and weaknesses. And electronic medical records, when they were designed 20, 30 years ago, and the tools what are available today are dramatically different. Doctors are used to the beautiful experience we get in these modern smartphones, but we don't have the same experience in using the electronic medical record, fundamentally because as doctors, it is not a good experience to keep typing when the patient is talking to us. We would like to connect to the patient's eyes. We want to talk to the patient. We want to understand what they're talking about. So essentially, if you are designing electronic medical record for the doctors, please do not have keyboard. It has to work on tab. Because doctors are not designed by God to type. This is the reality. And we do not want to attend any instruction classes how to use the EMR. It has to be intuitive. If every industry has produced intuitive EMR, why can't electronic medical records be? And this is a great opportunity for all the young budding engineers, software engineers to create. The next important thing when you are designing the electronic medical records is that please design all the electronic medical records for the mobile platform. This is very, very important. Now, I will give you an example why this is important. We designed our EMR for the mobile phone. 4 years ago, I would have never thought we will take decisions to treat patients with the chest X-ray shown in the mobile phone. Today, the moment the chest X-ray is done, it appears in the mobile phone. We look at it and we take major decisions on the patient care based on the image what we see in the mobile phone. Any image can be seen in a mobile phone if the software is designed for the mobile phone. And other important clue I just want to let you know, her patient condition keeps changing, and doctors across the world look at their desktop 5 to 6 times in a day, but they look at their mobile phone 200 times in a day. So if you want doctor's attention about a patient who is in the ICU or in the operating room, design everything for the mobile phone. They will act on it very, very fast. Like every day, I go to bed around 11 o'clock. Before I go to bed, I finish the ICU rounds. Because entire data of the patient, including the live cardiac monitor, I can see in my mobile phone. I'm up by 4:30 in the morning. First thing I do is to finish the ICU rounds. I don't go to ICU anymore. Now, one may ask, what about the touch? We have a policy that doctors in the ICU shouldn't touch the patient, because only the doctors who are supposed to do a procedure on the ICU patient should touch the patient. If you are not doing the procedure, don't touch the patient, because if you touch the patient, you may give him some dreadful infection. So essentially, the concept of touch, however important it is, doesn't add to the patient's care. I am a very strong proponent of the touch that is meaningful in the outpatient when we are talking to the patient, but not in the ICU when the patient is on a ventilator. Now, in what way hospital will be different? I can tell you within the next 3-4 years' time, when you enter the hospital reception, there will be a reception without receptionist. Whatever job receptionist normally do would have been done previous night, you at home in your drawing room and the receptionist at home, she or he will get all the information about you when you are resting at home and the receptionist at home. So that when you come to the hospital, in your mobile phone, you are told to visit room number XYZ, whatever, at that particular time. And the doctor is ready there, and doctor has every information about you because all the data from you would have come to the hospital, and doctor is well prepared. And instead of him asking, what is your problem? He will be only telling you your medical history, looking at your inputs to add to the story what he has. That will be a phenomenal experience for the patient to meet a doctor who already knows everything about the patient before even patient has walked into the office. Then when you reach the ICU to see one of your relatives, you'll be shocked. There will not be intensivist. There will be intensive care unit without intensivist. There will be few doctors who are trained to do certain procedures like ventilation or connecting the patient on a ventilator, putting the arterial line, central line, only few of them. All these senior intensivists will be at home. Why this is important? To optimize the ICU care, it is better the intensivist is at home. I'll explain to you why. Today, in India, US, Europe, a patient in the ICU gets the best care only between 9 to 5. 8 hours, they get the best care when all the senior intensivists are there. 16 hours in a day, patients get suboptimal care. They are taken care by either junior doctors or junior nurses, because you don't expect a senior intensivist of my age to be doing the night duty, staying myself up whole night. It is not possible. Doctors will get burnt out. Whereas that 16 hours, if you split it into 4-hour slots and intensivists work from home intensely for 4 hours, during which time they can see the patient in the TV or their laptop, they can talk to the patient, they can talk to the nurses, doctors there, whoever is there. They have all the real-time data of everything happening in your body with analytical tool saying that there is 2% possibility that this patient has a chance of getting a cardiac arrest, or 50% possibility he may develop a cardiac arrest within the next 24 hours. Then those patients will be put up in a critical area where there are senior nurses and there is constant monitoring. So when we do this, doctors will be happy because they get to stay at home and do the critical work of managing ICU. They don't get tired because they work only for 4 hours at night and they do the regular duty during the daytime. So intensive care specialty as such will become attractive for the talented doctors, and then patient will get the best care. This is just a glimpse of what can happen. And in the hospital today, we got hundreds of girls and boys running around, taking the blood sample from point A to point B, getting some material from the store, IV fluid or antibiotic or whatever, running around the ICU and the hospital. And soon you will find none of them will be there. There will be very, very inexpensive robot which will go on from one bed to the other or one point of hospital to the other. And these are the transformation which will happen. And I can tell you that within the next 1 or 2 years' time, any problem you have, first time consultation will happen online with you sitting in your drawing room And the doctor sitting in his clinic or home or a farmhouse, wherever, and they will give you the opinion. That is going to happen. In the process, every disease will get diagnosed at a very early stage. So we can cure cancer, we can virtually prevent any heart attack. All this will happen if the patient consults the doctors online at a very early stage. All this transformation to happen, we need a digital platform. And believe me, my bet is that Uber doesn't own cars. Airbnb doesn't own hotel rooms. Facebook doesn't create contents. Alibaba has no inventory. And the world's largest healthcare provider will have no beds. It is going to be a software. And you have an opportunity to create the software. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and good luck and God bless.
Thank you very much, Dr. Devi Shetty, for such an insightful talk on how digital is going to disrupt healthcare in the future very soon. Let me now move ahead to our next keynote speaker. Please allow me to introduce our second speaker, Shri T.V. Mohandas Pai, Chairman of Aaron Capital Partners, who will speak to us on the subject of charting the future of healthcare for the world from India. Over a career spanning 37 years, Shri Mohandas Pai has served in the areas of finance, accounting, information technology, human resources, education, corporate governance, social impact innovation, environmental conservation, policy formulation, heritage preservation, philanthropy, and the venture and startup ecosystem. He was awarded the Padma Shri Award by President of India in 2015 and the Karnataka Rajyotsava Award in 2008. Mohan is currently the chairman of Aaron Capital, chairman of Manipal Global Education, member of the board of Havells India and the Institute of Public Enterprises, and a member of board of many reputed institutes. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Padma Shri T.V. Mohandas Pai.
Folks, thank you very much for inviting me to talk on the future of healthcare. And I want to thank Honeywell for having this conference. For all human beings on the planet, the most important asset we have is our life. And all of us want to live a long, healthy life. It may not look important when you are younger, but as you grow older, health and a long life becomes more and more important for everybody. And if you look at healthcare globally, there are three significant challenges. First is access. Do all human beings have access to decent healthcare all across the world? Second is cost. Can people afford to pay the cost of healthcare? And we do know that cost is rising. And the third important thing the world is facing is that of an aging society. In most countries, populations are stagnating, people are getting older, and we know that as you get older, cost of healthcare goes up. And that will be a very, very big challenge for all economies in the world, especially economies with lower fertility and economies which are developed, because development and fertility have a direct correlation. When you talk about healthcare and access is very patchy all across the world. In the developed world, in large part of the developed world, there are enough doctors, there is enough healthcare, there is enough money. And we saw this during the time of the COVID lockdown, where the United States spent an enormous amount of money trying to get the vaccines up to help its population vaccinate themselves. The EU did it, but the US also blocked the export of vital ingredients for vaccine production in other countries. And we saw the EU and the United States become fortresses, focusing on taking care of their people. India had built up our vaccination infrastructure, and India first provided the world with 75 million vaccines, but had to stop it because there's a great need to vaccinate its own population. So infrastructure is improving in India, medicine availability is improving in India, affordability is an issue. So access definitely in India will be much, much better in future than it has been, because there's a focus now after COVID to invest more in public sector healthcare. I'm all for the private sector, But you must remember that both public sector and private sector should work together to give affordable healthcare to everybody. And citizens should have a choice whether to go to the public sector or the private sector healthcare provider. Then what about costs? The costs are increasing. Now, even in countries like India, healthcare costs are going up. If you look at the private sector, costs are going up. A friend of mine had a cancer treatment for his wife, and he told me he spent 50 lakhs, and one dose of a medicine cost him 2.5 lakhs. Of course, his wife got cured. That's what he said, and life was saved. Probably earlier people would have died, but then your life cannot depend whether you got money for healthcare. I think as a society, we have to make sure nobody loses their life for want of healthcare. All of us have an obligation. Governments have an obligation. And that is very, very important for all of us to realize. Yes, many of us may have money. We buy medical insurance, takes care of it, but then it has to work. So we have to make sure that healthcare costs are met by the government. We give consumers a choice. And we also have to make sure that healthcare is affordable to a great extent to everybody. And nobody should die or be turned away because of healthcare costs. And costs have to come down to innovation and through technology. Aging is going to be a very big challenge for everybody. Our societies are getting older. And I think, we are halfway there where technology can reduce costs, increase access, and improve the health of people. Aging is a result of better health facilities. Much of the diseases that killed people earlier, like smallpox, polio, which hurt people and disable them, etc., are gone. We remember when we were younger, people dying of smallpox and people telling us that you're past 60, you're very old. We expected people to die once they cross 60, 65. Now people are living up to 80. I think India's longevity rate is now gone up to 69 for women and 67 for men. And I think the world average is closer to 71, and Japan is 85 for men and 88 for women. And people believe everybody can live up to 100 at least, or an average. So what is the solution for these three challenges? Access, cost, and aging. To my mind, the biggest solution will come from technology. And why is that? Let us look at access. Now, through an app, and data is very cheap, smartphones have become cheaper, you can connect with healthcare providers easily and reduce costs for them. Even if you want a specialist, you can reduce costs. There's data we said the specialists only use up 35% of the time because they're specialists and don't get enough cases all across the country. In India, I'm sure that could be the same all across the world. And by going on to video and consulting with them, they can possibly use more of the time and reduce costs. So by using apps and technology, you can improve access. By using apps and technology, you can make a diagnosis. For example, you can take a photograph of your retina, send it to somebody, and they can come back with you and tell you whether you need to go to a doctor. You can have medical camps for people using technology and devices run by a nurse in most parts of the world, and you can get all the data, and then you can send it to doctors somewhere else. They don't have to travel, and they can come and make sure that they use that data and tell you exactly what is required so that early detection of diseases can be done. Early detection can mean saving of life and saving of cost. And then using technology and devices, you can have an IoT layer under your bed, which will capture all the vital signs of your body and your health, transmit it through an app, store it so that people can make a diagnosis and tell you what to do. If you take an X-ray, the X-ray can be read by a radiologist sitting far away. So many technologies are available. Technologies for wellness, how to take proper exercise, how to make sure that you have a proper diet, how to ask queries and information on healthcare. All that is available by technology. That means the quality of health will improve. The ability of the individual to improve the health will go up tremendously, and that is very, very good. Now, what about designer drugs and other things else by technology? We're seeing companies like Dozy, for example, in India come up with the innovation whereby they put an IoT mat under their bed and capture all the devices. There are companies like CureFit, for example, who tell you about your health and wellness. There are companies like Breathe In, who are now coming out and telling you that if you follow their regime and subscribe, you can reverse diabetes. So there are many, many ways by which you can use wellness app, you can use all these technologies to diagnose and improve your health. So access can be improved through wearable devices, apps, monitoring from a distance, and using data. Now we can monitor all our vital signs and use the data to send to somebody, and they can diagnose and have an early warning system for everybody. And that can help insurance costs come down, because insurance can then be tailor-made. And big data can also look at patterns to find out what happens at particular times to make sure that you get healthcare in time. So I think access can be improved because the cost can come down and you don't have to travel. You can stay at home to do many things, and you can take care of yourself, right from wellness and health monitoring to talking to doctors to health insurance to getting medicine at home through all those big medical medicine delivery companies to sharing costs with many other companies, etc. You can also have stem cell research to make sure that body organs can be grown in the lab and given to you. And using technology, you can also get robotic surgery. I've been talking to people to say, why can't we have a device which will do a 3D imaging of your entire body like you do LIDAR for ground penetrating radar, and look at all your body parts and then use those to simulate what could happen and use the vital signs of your body to monitor your health and create a digital avatar. And the digital avatar with all the data can create a status whereby people can monitor that and simulate what will happen if you do XYZ. And that could possibly help. And I think that's going to be the new frontier. I was talking to a great VC investor is telling me in the United States right now, this digital avatar is something that is getting invested in by a lot of people. So I believe technology can improve access to health. Can technology reduce costs? I think so. Technology can reduce costs because it can reduce waste. It can make information available. One of the big challenges for everybody is healthcare information. Now in India, the health stack is getting built. And with Ayushman Bharat, we'll have 500 million people who will be covered by government insurance, which can allow you to go to 25,000 hospitals and get care. And there will be maybe 50,000 primary health centers set up by the government where you can go and get decent health care. And all this is going to be digitized. All this is going to be available. And the largest quantum of data on the human condition will be available in India very soon. Today, about 22 million people have got their operations done in hospitals across India because of Ayushman Bharat, and about maybe 220, 230 million people have already got registered for Ayushman Bharat. That means all the data will be captured. And using the big data, using simulation, and making it available for many people can make a dramatic improvement to reducing costs. And through the app economy and through greater digitization, we can reduce costs. For example, the time for creating new vaccines or drugs is coming down because you can platformize the drug creation process, whereby you can use digital technology to stimulate the human conditions, stimulate the chemical composition of various drugs, mix and match, and reduce the time for the drugs to be tested and the drugs to come to market. Because creating a new chemical compound is very expensive. It requires extensive experimentation and creation in the lab. But today, using digital technology, you can simulate all that, and using the simulation, you can possibly bring it down. I think it's called mRNA technology or something like that. For example, Moderna does that, and Moderna came out with a device built on research over years. But now with the platform, they're able to do that. Bugworks in Bangalore is using the platform technology and simulation to create new drugs for some killer diseases from the ICU for the bugs, for the big bugs that are there in the ICU. So we can see that cost can also come down by reducing the time for drug discovery, making apps available to everybody, improving the health of people, giving them access to better healthcare, and giving them access to healthcare at their fingertips, and helping them monitor their health and get early warning signals. And I think that's extremely, extremely important. How do you solve the problem of aging? And I think aging costs are very high. And you can solve the problems of aging by making sure that you are able to take care of the challenges of aging. First of all, if you want to live a long, healthy life, you have to be healthy. And wellness apps and wellness technology allows you to monitor a diet, eat the right kind of food at the right kind of time, make sure that you exercise, make sure that you get your sleep, make sure that you monitor the vital signs and take appropriate action. So you can live healthily and you got more information at your fingertips than earlier. Second, you can consult doctors and others at much lower cost regularly. And third, all the vital signs can be monitored by somebody else. And fourth, you can create a digital avatar which can simulate what could happen over a period of time. And next, technology is making sure that they're trying to find out how does aging happen. I'm told that aging happens because at a particular point of time in your life, maybe after 30, your body cells don't regenerate the same pace that they did. When the total quantum of body cells start coming down, it means that you're aging and you're shrinking in size. And that's why as you get older, your body sort of shrinks. Your skin is no longer glowing. Your eyes are no longer glowing. You have a slightly haggard look and you get wrinkles on your face and all that because the body cells are not regenerating. Technologies are trying to find out what simulates that kind of a reaction to your DNA. What is that gene that does that, and see whether gene can be manipulated to do things better. Then, of course, there's wear and tear of body parts, and can we have stem cell research to put stem cells into your body to regenerate the body parts that are worn so that you get fresh body parts. Imagine later, maybe 10 years from now, going to a particular place and going through therapy whereby stem cells are given, maybe there's a blood transfusion whereby that helps you regenerate all your body parts and the body parts can become much younger. Can it happen? Maybe. I think a lot of money is going into that because today there are more billionaires than any time in history. And for all those billionaires, the most important thing they lack is a long life. And they're all spending billions of dollars all across the world to come out with solutions to improve their life experience and to live longer. In fact, wanting to live longer is becoming a big driver for people, for many, many people all across the world, and technology is enabling that. Then can you also make sure that as you grow older, you get better medical care, timely medical care, so that you can be much more healthy? Yes, technology can provide that and your lifespan can go up. Can you also make sure that infant mortality is reduced, maternal mortality is reduced? Yes. Can you make sure that you got non-invasive surgery whereby robotic surgery can help, whereby you don't require to go to hospitals for many things, etc.? Yes. Now the quantum of research that is going in using technology is extremely high. Can you also monitor the weak electrical impulses in your brain and make sure those weak electrical impulses can be manipulated from outside to improve health condition? Maybe. They found in research that they can use signals to stimulate muscles to twitch in mice all across. And you've seen what Elon Musk and others are doing in trying to make sure that you can control the mind and thereby control the body of animals as an experiment and see whether it can go on. So aging is something that requires higher degree of medical care, and technology can definitely help. So I would like to end my talk by saying that it's very important for all of us today to make sure that healthcare is available to everybody. People don't die because of healthcare. It's very important to make sure the costs are reasonable, and we have to create financial structures which enable people to do. We need public spending to increase because life is important for everybody. And we have to make sure that as people live longer, the aging process is much more robust, and the aging process is something that can be tackled by people without too much of cost and too much of pain. And for all of that, I think technology and innovation is the big solution or the big change agent. And technology is being driven by digital technology, the power of the chip, which can process enormous amount of data in a short period of time. The capacity of the cloud, which is making storage easier and easier, giving you huge capacity to store. The power of data, which is getting captured in larger numbers, where you can run AI algorithms to do, and we can allow you to simulate many, many things. The power of algorithms, we can simulate new drug creation, simulate, let us say, new ways of using gene therapy to prolong life and to make life easier and to solve the problems of diseases. And then the speed of change, the speed which it brings into the entire process of generating new medicine and new ways of doing it. And technology certainly is a very, very big change agent. And if you look at cutting edge technology today, what is the state of cutting edge technology today? We'll all be shocked where technology has progressed. I do wish that Honeywell and some of you will write a paper. What is cutting edge technology today, and what could we hope to see in the next 2 years? And educate everybody so people know what may come and what can be done and where we are. Because there's so much of change, so many things happening all the time that most of us don't know how we can make a qualitative difference to health and also expand health facilities. So it's very important for conferences like this and people like Honeywell to create the intellectual collateral and the intellectual material and to collect all that to make sure that people are educated on what is the state of the art and what is available and what could be available in 2 or 3 years. And we must also reduce the cost of healthcare to reducing waste. There's a lot of waste in the healthcare system because people and capacity are not utilized. Can we consolidate people and capacity by using platforms to make sure that healthcare is available to everybody at the fingertips through an app, to the mobile device? Can we make sure that unnecessary use of medicine is reduced by making sure that the medicine that is usable for a person can be given to them? For example, I'm told that only 70% of people can use the medicine that's designed for them because there is mutation in 30% of people, which say that the same medicine is less effective. Can we have DNA technologies to custom design medicine for people to suit their body so that is much more useful? And can we create automation to make sure the cost of healthcare and waste are reduced? And I think there's a lot of work, and I think we need conferences like this and all of you to put on a thinking hat. So I want to thank Honeywell and all of you. I'm very excited to see how healthcare is coming up in the next few years. I'm very excited to see the levels of innovation that's happening. I'm very excited to see how technology is making a great change to everybody. I'm extremely excited at the fast pace of change and what is happening on the world. Thank you and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pai, for an insightful view into how India is driving and will continue to drive the technology revolution in healthcare for the world. Let us now move to our final keynote speaker. Please allow me to introduce our third keynote speaker, Mr. Gautam Khanna, who will speak to us on leveraging technology effectively in the healthcare ecosystem. Mr. Gautam Khanna is the CEO of PD Hinduja Hospital and Medical Research Center in Mumbai and is also the head of the Hinduja College of Nursing. He is also a managing committee member of a degree college in Mumbai. Mr. Khanna is an experienced business leader with a rich experience of more than 31 years successfully managing diverse businesses and creating sustainable shareholder value in domestic and internationally challenging environments at Hinduja Hospital and 3M. He has led culturally disparate teams across APAC and Latin America, based out of the United States and in India. Prior to this role, Mr. Khanna was the executive director and country business leader of 3M healthcare businesses for the South Asia region and worked in 3M for 22 years in India and abroad. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Gautam Khanna.
Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to address such an esteemed audience, and thank you for considering me for my views. So I'll try and give all of you a perspective on what I think is happening to the healthcare and what changes will happen. Some of them may happen maybe sooner than what I think, or maybe later, but the trend is unmistakable. It is going to happen. And before we go into details, let's just talk about why we are talking about the changes. We have not talked about changes in healthcare for decades. And all of you are aware that the way we have delivered healthcare in the world, not in India, in the world, has been exactly the same way. What you have done 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So now there is a transformation. And we all know that these changes are driven by the pandemic. Now, what happened in pandemic, and just to take a second on that, is that in pandemic, what came out was that our healthcare infrastructure is completely inadequate to meet the demands of the population of the country. And so that meant that now what was not known to the patients, not known to the population, is now visible to all. So now once the problem is big and staring, we have to have a solution, and we found a solution. And the rapid advancement of technology in the last year or so has also enabled a lot of changes in healthcare. So I am going to talk a little bit about what we have heard about the digital healthcare and what it means, and then we'll talk about other things. So, the globally, digital healthcare is it includes telehealth, it includes mHealth, electronic records, it includes remote monitoring, it includes analytics, and so on and on. And it is expected that it will be around $485 billion by 2024. That will be the size of the market, and it is growing at 27% on an annual basis, CAGR. So obviously there is a lot of growth and there is a lot of potential in this market. So why it is happening and what it is. Now, if you just take a bit of that and translate it into India, in India, health tech is expected to be around $50 billion, maybe in another 10 years. So let's say 2033, which will include, there'll be a component of e-pharmacies, there'll be a component of B2B health techs, B2B of logistics and supplies, video consultations, and other things which I talked about, the mobile health, and so on and on. And one example of that, you've also seen in the last year or so, the government of India, when they liberalized the tele-consulting guidelines, the e-Sanjeevani project by the government has already delivered healthcare to more than 1 crore people in the country. And they are doing almost 75,000 to 1 lakh per day. Now, imagine this was not being done before. So the technology is already giving access to a lot of population in the country. And the other things which happen in technology, and I'm not shy at saying this, is that healthcare has always used technology for equipments. But to use technology for delivery and other aspects, we've been a little laggard. So think about it, that before last year, how many doctors and professionals used teleconsultation? Not many. So, but now in the last year or so, more than 85% clinicians have used teleconsultations. They've had, many of them are first timers. Around 40 to 50% patients are from non-metros. So what we like to believe that technology exists only in urban areas or metros, not exactly true. And many people have found it effective. More than 50% have found it effective. Now, this was from a study which was done by BCG and FICCI last year. So I'm quoting from that. The other driver to this, what is happening is the investment in the country, the private equity investment. And money follows wherever there is an opportunity. So if you just look at the trend, around $1.3 billion has been invested this year by private equity till August in the healthcare space. Now, obviously something is happening. And combine it with the government's push on digital, with the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, which used to be the NDHM, which talks about creation of the healthcare ID, the professionals registry, the hospitals registry, and the electronic records. Now, some of my friends will say, it's not going to happen now. Records may not happen now, but at least if the ID is created, if the registries are made, it is a step in the right direction. It's a question of time when some of us, or maybe all of us, will be able to access all our medical records online with a unique ID, irrespective of the facility where we go to. So it will mean that if I am in town A, I go to town B, my records travel with me. Now, what does it mean? It means that the person who is the clinician who is giving me a consult in town B has access to my full history. So probably the clinical decision making will be better, maybe more informed, and I have control. So the control over health is moving from a hospital and a doctor to patient owning their own record and deciding where to go. Now, what does that mean? If you look at the society as a whole, our patients are also behaving in some manner as consumers, in the sense they are well informed, they like to discuss, and they like to evaluate various options before taking a decision. And this growth of technology is really helping them do that. Now, if you take all this and translate it into a hospital space, what does it mean for a healthcare provider, for people like us? What it means is something very easy to understand, that this helps us expand our catchment area. For example, in our Hinduja hospital, we have done teleconsults or video consults for patients who are from more than 260 cities in the country in the last year or so. What that means is that patients who are not able to come to the hospital, I am able to provide some kind of a consult to them. Now, this is amazing. And imagine the person who is sitting in a far off town, he can access the best of the doctors across the world, across the country, with a click of a button. So I think that's a very pro hospital. And all hospitals have adopted it completely. So that's a great thing. The other thing is, when you give some kind of a digital platform, and if you give a registry and you give an ID, the moment you give that, it leads to what we call as dynamic pricing. It gives a choice to the patients that you will go to wherever you think is appropriate, and there will be a filter of quality and value-based healthcare. So I think that is a change which is going to happen, and all hospitals need to be ready with that. Now, just from the efficiency point of view, if everything is digitized, it also helps in improving efficiency of the hospital. Inside the hospital, what is happening? Now look at the journey of the patient from before they enter the hospital to throughout the hospital stay and outside the hospital. So more and more what we are seeing is that what we call as IoT, the devices are being linked, the sensor-based technologies are there. Now, what does this sensor-based technologies do? What it means is that earlier, if there were 4 nurses required to manage a ward because they have to go physically from patient to patient, maybe we can manage with 3 or 2 nurses, where all the nurse stations have to have is a standard monitor where they are monitoring the vitals of each and every patient, which is through remote sensing across all beds, and they know where to go. So this helps increase our, the kind of care we give to our patients and in time. The thing about this is, what will it do? What will it do to the care? See, today we have what I call as reactive care. But I think this will lead to what will happen is proactive care. So when somebody sees the parameters and vitals in advance, they know and they can reach or they can predict, and you can provide care in advance of earlier. This will also help mobilize our resources, because if you have sensor based, you can do sensor based tracking on the equipment, on the trolleys, on the wheelchairs, and maybe some people can use the sensors. So you know exactly where each equipment is, where each wheelchair is, where each patient is, and then you can schedule their appointments, like how we've been using that in one of our areas, where we know exactly where each patient is, and we schedule their appointments and health check accordingly. So I think it's amazing, because it doesn't, it utilizes all the resources effectively, and also the patient's time doesn't get wasted. And patients are generally happy with this better improved patient care. And we all know the challenges in the country, that we have less number of doctors, less number of nurses, less number of allied staff. So the more and more we use technology, and more, suppose we can do remote monitoring, like I said about this, or if I can have a remote monitoring of the ICU. So the more I do that, I can manage with less resources. And in a country like India, where resources and number of professionals is a challenge, this will be a great help. And we've been employing examples of that. A simple example of this. And what I believe is that technology doesn't have to be very complex. Even simple applications lead to greater discoveries. For example, in COVID, we all know that the patient's relatives were not allowed to go into the patient wards. Now they need to talk to them. Simple thing, use an iPad at both ends. So the same technology and simple application is used for remote IC monitoring for complex cases, of course, with a different aspect, more vitals monitoring and so on. So that I think is happening in the healthcare space. The other trend we are seeing in the hospitals, and all of us are seeing in the society, that what COVID did for all of us, it showed us that the health is very important. The economy shut down, the offices shut down, the roads shut down. We knew health is the most important aspect. Health is wealth, what we've heard. So based on that, there is a lot of focus now on preventive health by people. So people are using wearables, people are exercising, people are going for preventive health checks. So what this is leading to preventive healthcare. And if you hold that thought for a minute, so all these things are changing in the hospital environment, in the society, but what can derail it is the number of people are less, number of beds are less, the infrastructure. So what we can do, and I'm giving a specific example, and this is my suggestion to, if there are some decision makers listening to this talk, my request to you is that we need more nurses. And there are many nursing colleges which do not have enough admissions. So my request is, please create better employment opportunities for nurses in the country so that more and more people are willing to join nurses. Also do changes for nurse practitioners so that you don't put all the load on the doctors and on the nurses. The other thing is that hospitals, of course, need to get some incentives to train allied healthcare and so on. And my favorite is reverse brain drain. The way when we can, if there is a way to get people who are abroad, Indians who are medical professionals, nursing professionals, to come back to India and provide them some incentives, some special facilities so they can come and serve the country. I think we can do that. I think a large scale use of AI and ML to do mass screening across the government programs in rural areas, in semi-urban areas, where you do the screening and that can be monitored by urban centers where there are doctors remotely monitoring it, and then you filter it out and get the cases for, through you cascade primary, secondary, tertiary healthcare, and you get them to the center where they need to be. I think that will be a great thing, and is also leading to people adopting more and more insurance. So the more and more people take insurance, and with Ayushman Bharat, 50 crore people will be insured in some manner, there is a need for better healthcare. There's a need for better technology. And unless we adopt technology, we are not going to be in sync with what the world wants, what the patients demand. And I am a firm believer that a patient in India is exactly the same as the patient in the US, or exactly the same as a patient somewhere in Europe or Australia. So they are entitled to the same level of care. They are entitled to the same level of equipment and technology. And there is no reason why we should not provide it, especially now that globally we are all connected. And with all these changes, I think there is a time has come. This technology will help us. See, today, hospitals are for sick people. So we are in healthcare, but essentially we are in sick care, taking care of people whose health is not okay. I think the way technology is transforming itself and what I have just discussed in the past few minutes, I think this is the time when hospitals will truly transform from sick care to healthcare, including preventive healthcare for the community. And I'm very, like I say, I'm very bullish on the sector, and I'm very glad that I am in this sector at this point in my life and this point in India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khanna, for a first-hand perspective on the criticality of adopting real-time solutions for the healthcare space from the perspective of a large and highly respected hospital system. Thank you once again to all the keynote speakers. As we move forward, I must say each keynote speaker has brought a very different and invaluable perspective to the topic of digital transformation in building a healthcare ecosystem in India. Thank you so much to Dr. Devi Shetty, Sri Mohandas Pai, and Mr. Gautam Khanna for very engaging and exciting speeches. So it's now time to move to our next segment of this conclave, which is very close to my heart. And as we talk about Honeywell's real-time health monitoring system, a smart edge communication platform for remote and real-time monitoring of patients, which acts as a bridge between caregiver and patient. It also represents Honeywell's foray into the world of digital healthcare solutions. Let me welcome Ajaya Muthaganahalli to stage. Ajaya Muthaganahalli works as the CTO for the Safety and Productivity Solutions Business Group at Honeywell Technology Solutions, India, and is responsible for driving all aspects of engineering development and R&D, global NPI, and innovation in India. Ajaya is responsible for delivering over $500 million of new product revenue and leads a large multi-geographical engineering organization at Honeywell to deliver innovative and differentiated products to the world markets. Ajaya is an alumnus of the UC Berkeley Haas School of Business and also holds an engineering degree from Bangalore University. Ajaya is a well-rounded engineering leader with more than 20 years of experience in software product development, strategy, and product operations. So please join me in welcoming Ajaya for this much-awaited segment of the conclave.
We bear witness to some illuminating presentations from the distinguished experts here before me. To start, I want to thank Dr. Devi Shetty, Padma Shri Mohandas Pai, and Mr. Gautam Khanna for sharing their thoughts on our platform here today. There is a clear and unequivocal need for using technology to achieve the following at speed and scale: making high-quality healthcare ubiquitous, efficient, and real-time, enhancing the patient experience by improving inpatient and outpatient workflows, making our hospitals and offline care centers smart and efficient. Let's rewind to April 2021. Indian healthcare systems were put under immense stress, ranging from shortage of hospital beds to, more specifically, ICU support. That indeed was a great learning for many of us and a call to humanity to muster resources to tackle future emergencies smartly, supported by technology. Future of healthcare is digital. To that end, Honeywell has started focusing on several areas where we can improve quality and delivery of healthcare using smart tech. Today, it gives me immense pride to announce the launch of Honeywell's real-time health monitoring system, a high-tech digital solution to monitor a patient's vitals remotely and constantly. Vitals such as ECG, heart rate, respiratory rate, pulse, oxygen saturation, and even posture can be monitored remotely. This device is FDA approved and runs on a sophisticated cloud-enabled backend to provide real-time updates both at a nurse station as well as on the mobile handheld. The system is deeply integrated into Honeywell's care communications platform and provides a unified single pane of glass experience to the caregivers. Today we launched this product in India and shortly be taking this forward to other geographies in the world. Let me pause here for a couple of minutes and play a video that captures the essence of this solution.
Honeywell's real-time health system helps caregivers in tracking the key vitals of their patients remotely. The RTHS solution uses a biomedical patch that continuously records ECG, respiratory rate, heart rate, skin temperature, and the posture of the patient. The caregiver places the patch on a patient's chest and turns on the patch. With the help of Honeywell's care communication platform-based mobile app, the caregiver can then scan the barcode of the patch and pair the patch with the app. The caregiver can now check for the initial readings on the care communication platform and confirm the pairing. Once the setup has been completed, the caregiver will start receiving alerts on his or her device if any of the patient's vitals cross a certain threshold. In this way, the nurse or caregiver can attend to the patients in need. This alleviates the need for periodical collection of vitals and reduces the amount of round trips to the patient's room. This, in turn, improves the efficiency of care.
Welcome back. I hope this was as exciting to you as it was for me. Now imagine the possibilities here using this solution. A normal bed can now become a smart bed. Enhanced effectiveness of care, meaning vitals can be monitored and excursions of these vitals generate an instant alert, real-time informing the caregivers and doctors as it happens. This makes post-operative care extremely effective, giving doctors an option to monitor patients personally. Improved hygiene. After a continuous use of 5 days, this batch can be disposed. Most importantly, for a country like us, minimal setup and infrastructure requirements, as this is a cloud-enabled solutions. So this can cater to remote parts of the country and thereby elevate the effectiveness of hospitals in rural areas. With Honeywell's real-time health monitoring system and a number of other solutions in our pipeline, we are confident of making India's healthcare more effective and efficient. Thank you.
Digital transformation is key to optimizing healthcare delivery and improving patient outcomes. Honeywell's real-time health solutions will pave the way for this transformation. Thank you, Ajaya, for that wonderful talk. With that, let me now switch gears and introduce the final segment of this conclave, a panel session on revolutionizing healthcare for a superior patient experience. For this panel session, our panelists include Dr. Deepak Venugopalan, who is the Regional Chief Operating Officer with Manipal Health Enterprises, Mr. Rajneesh Menon, who is the founder and CEO of Sukino Healthcare Solutions, Dr. Dhruv Joshi, co-founder of Cloud Physician, Charbel Riskala, Director of Offering Management and Commercial Excellence at Honeywell, and K. Nandakumar, General Manager and Country Leader for Honeywell Safety and Productivity Solutions, India, who will also be moderating this session. Without further ado, let's hear from all our panelists.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our virtual conclave on future of healthcare. In the morning, we heard our 3 keynote speakers speak, and then we had Ajaya unveil the real-time healthcare solution. And today we have a very distinguished panel with us, which we are going to talk about revolutionizing healthcare for superior patient care. So before we start a quick round of introductions, let me introduce myself. My name is K. Nandakumar. I'm the General Manager for Safety and Productivity Solutions Business for India. We have with us Deepak Venugopal, who's the Regional Chief Operating Officer from Manipal. I have Rajneesh Menon, who's the founder and CEO of Sukino. I have Dhruv Joshi with me, who's a co-founder of Cloud Physician. And I have Charbel, who's my colleague, Director of Offering Management. So quickly over to you, Charbel, for a quick round of introduction.
Good morning, good day, everyone. Thank you, Nando, for the introduction. My name is Charbel, and I have been in the healthcare industry for around 17 years. I have an engineering background, executive MBA, and I'm a PhD candidate in the context of value-based healthcare. I'm currently leading the offering management and commercial excellence for the Honeywell Intelligent Life Care. And this business unit is within the safety and productivity business of Honeywell, focused on healthcare and improving what we can do in terms of productivity, safety, and efficiency for care organizations. Thank you again for this event, and thank you for having me in this panel.
Hey, thank you, Charbel. Deepak, over to you.
Thanks, Nandu, for stitching this up together, the Honeywell team as well. So it's good to be a part of this panel discussion. So my name is Deepak. I have been working as a Regional Chief Operating Officer for the Manipal Hospital Network in their hospitals in Bangalore, Mysore, and Salem. So as a part of my responsibility, we have 11 units in these cities, which I am responsible for the operations and the day-to-day operations, etc. So as a healthcare professional for most of my working career, so almost 23, 24 years of work experience in the space. Looking forward to the next 15-20 minutes where we can all come together and share our ideas. So thanks for getting me here.
Hey, thank you, Deepak, and welcome. Over to you, Rajneesh.
Thank you, Nanda Kumar, and good to meet all my fellow panelists. My name is Rajneesh, and I'm the founder of a company named Sukino Healthcare. Sukino is a company that is involved in providing continuum of care for patients who suffer from chronic ailments. We have been in existence since about 5 to 6 years across Bangalore and Kochi, have close to about 250 odd beds, and we are very active home care team as well, supporting the continuum of care. We are into the core service provision, for healthcare, where we use technology to kind of aid the provision of healthcare for our patients. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Hey, thank you, Rajneesh. Dhruv, what do you?
Hello, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dhruv Joshi. I'm a physician by training with a specialization in pulmonary medicine and intensive care. I co-founded and I run a company called Cloud Physician, where we leverage our proprietary technology platform to connect hospital ICUs to our team of ICU specialist doctors, enabling hospitals to optimally manage their critically ill patients. We do this across the country, and today we're supporting about 40 hospitals across 14 states in the country in India. We're based in Bangalore and spanning about a network of around 400 ICU beds. Pleasure to be here, and I look forward to the discussion.
Hey, thank you. So, very honored to kind of chair the session today and have really set of people who have spent collectively, I think we have close to 100 years of experience in healthcare. So really nice to have a very seasoned team today. So let me just set a context in terms of how the last 2 years have been and how healthcare has kind of been over the last 2 years. I think the one industry that has really been pushed enough in the last 2 years has been the healthcare sector. And the pandemic kind of really tested the availability of hospitals, availability of doctors, availability of caregivers. And what has happened is everyone wanted to scale up quickly. And we all realized that to set up hospitals or have doctors or nurses come out from colleges is not so very easy, right? It's a little long-term solution that we need to work on. And naturally, it takes time, well as a lot of investments that needs to go in. And that's where the very critical part of technology comes into play. And the whole discussion around what Honeywell is trying to do is see how can we help the healthcare segment in driving superior healthcare or patient care by moving on to technology-aided solutions, kind of take technology as one of the key pillars for growth. So that's in terms of the context, in terms of where we are and how we want the discussion or how we look at the discussion for today. So before, what I would do is I would like to start with asking Deepak, how has the last 2 years been, maybe pre and post pandemic? What's happened in the healthcare sector? What has been the impact on patient care?
Well, that's a big question to answer, Nandu. I mean, especially with the first wave, second waves, and the COVID learning that all of us have taken in our personal and professional lives. But I mean, if I had to look at it from a perspective of the buying behavior of a patient or the consumer, I think that's the major shift that has happened in the last few months, few years, wherein a patient is willing to access his treating doctor through alternate forms of technology, wherein this whole brick and mortar physical touch model, which at one point of time was perceived as the only way to transact healthcare, has definitely changed. I mean, I think as large hospital players that we are, we saw video consultations reach new numbers of heights during the COVID period. And there were quality consultations happening for specialties like a physician, maybe a dermatologist, maybe a surgeon who actually was having these meaningful dialogues with his patient on a video call on through technology platforms to to start attending to their healthcare needs, which was otherwise not possible because the patient couldn't come out of his house, right? So I think that has been one major shift, which I think all of us have begun to realize. Number two, I think even if you look at it from a overall perception towards health for consumers and patients today, I think everybody is so much more educated about realizing why healthcare is what it is. People are talking about COVID tests, they're talking about antibodies, they're talking about the blood biochemical parameters. I think masks and hand hygiene, etc. Everything has now become kind of more relevant for the day-to-day life of consumers, which of course is affecting a lot of access to information and content. For people to know what is relevant for them. How do I kind of measure myself on a daily basis in terms of my immunity? How do I kind of keep myself fit and healthy? I think the entire transitioning towards wellness in this period of illness has been also a very nice transitioning, which I think a lot of us have noticed. I'm sure because today I think health checkup, preventive checkups, etc., which was more of an annual routine, which most of the companies should do just to cover up like a check in the box kind of a concept, has changed. Where I think genuinely people want to know that are their parameters strong enough to keep them healthy. So I think that is another key transition in my mind, which has linked in a lot of technological disruption. Again, like some of our keynote speakers spoke about earlier too, that what is the digital disruption in healthcare today. I think that becomes very relevant. So a lot of these app-based solutions, people keeping their health records in easy access. I mean, if you remember those old files which people used to carry around. Today, there are ways that I go to a doctor, I say that this is my last readings. What do you think about it, right? I mean, so that has been another strong technology, focus. And I think the last one before I take a pause and invite comments from my fellow panelists is about this entire piece around out of home practice. So I think I heard Rajni speak about his business model, which is working so much around home care. I think even as players that we are into healthcare delivery, I mean, with quaternary care services being offered in terms of transplantations and high-end work, we still see the need of us to reach out to our patients in their home settings, because that is where comfort lies, because they feel and they realize and they've tasted healthcare also being delivered at their own home front. So whether it's a lab collection, doctors on call, nurses going and attending to the requirements, pharmacy being delivered. I think that again has been another huge place. So, again, technology plays a major role in terms of getting them to stay fit, get treated in a hospital, and then of course digitally transact their continuum of care across the whole space. Would be the 2 or 3 key changes that I have been seeing. And again, one last point is that we have always, as hospital providers, we always take pride to see a crowded hospital. So the moment you come to a hospital, say it's a busy hospital, I think that as a definition is changing, because a smart hospital doesn't have to be busy. A lot of things can happen with patients being at home. You don't have to really meet a patient on a follow-up consult. You can do it over a phone call. So I think it's beginning to become a little more smarter in terms of the way we function, because infection control practices have increased. You really don't want everybody crowding in lifts or moving around the whole hospital lobby to show it's busy, but be smart enough to go more of appointed care, access your patient at the right time, and keep following up through a digital route or a technology route. So I think that would be a final comment that hospitals are beginning to work much smarter as healthcare players, and are tying up with the larger ecosystem, which Rajneesh and Dhruv and a lot of other players are bringing to the table. So overall, it's going to be a huge benefit for the patient for sure. Now to you, Nandu.
Hey, thanks, Deepak. Key points that you made, which are really like, one was around a busy hospital and smart hospital. Clearly, what today after COVID, we realize really we have a phobia towards crowd, right? We don't want to see crowd, and especially when you go to a hospital, we really don't want to see more people there. So a smart hospital is truly one which is key that you spoke, and I agree completely with you in terms of the buying behavior, healthcare at home, and that kind of leads me to asking Rajneesh, very different from a traditional hospital continuum care. How has it been for you, and how have you adopted to technology?
Well, the continuum care itself is a very new concept in India. When I started Sukino about 5-6 years back, my first point was to evangelize this concept amongst the consultant itself. Not that they didn't know about it, but it's just that the concept in India, is it available? Do you do that? I mean, these are the kind of questions I was asked by the consultants, because they have seen this model, they've heard about this model, and they have, for some of them, also worked in such companies in the developed countries. So continuum of care, just to kind of speak a couple of words about it. It's a concept where people who need extended care. When I say extended care, it can be medical management care or it can be rehabilitative care. And in most cases, it is the combination of both. This is where something is missed out. For example, if I have to take the cardiovascular area, post a cardiac surgery, till date, and when I say till date, I don't mean today, but I'm talking in general, people are extremely scared to take even one step forward, thinking that they're going to be putting a lot of pressure on the heart and that can just rupture, right? It's a kind of misconception people have. Whereas in reality, a person who's had a cardiovascular surgery is supposed to do an endurance test, a stress test to see, and then so that he can reclaim his life back. And after all, you've done the surgery to reclaim a life back and not to go back in time, right? So the concept of continuum care is something that ensures that people understand that nothing is greatly lost. They can recoup whatever they've lost. And to that extent, both the medical management and rehabilitation goes hand in hand. Now, as part of continuum of care, the main aspect that we do is we take care of the treating physician's advices in treating the patient. So we don't do anything different. The patient is secure, safe, in that he gets the same treatment plan of the doctor. The doctor is now very assured that the treatment plan that he's advised is something that has been carried out over here. And thirdly, as a partner, even you can call ourselves as a concierge partner as well. We act as a bridge between the physician and the patient, whereby at any point in time, any sort of a movement has to be done, any sort of a care has to be provided, any care of a care has to be acknowledged and transferred. All this is done by Sukino. So as a concept to land this in the initial days, it took about 3-4 years for me to land it. But now the good thing is that people understand it. Patients understand it. Again, thanks to Google and thanks to the Googleopathy that we see today, people understand what is rehabilitation and they do come forward. You'll be surprised to know that majority of my patients come on their own after Googling about what Sukino does. They talk to the doctors, understand the concept better, then they come and visit us and they see how other patients have gotten better. So, the concept is unique. We are still pioneering it, and I think it's in a long way to go. And this is where technology plays a very big role as well, because although we are in the core services element, the only way where we can mimic some of the clinical aspects of the hospital, but at the same time, if we have to provide the comfort of a home, what is very important is that we don't work like the Babu setup with a lot of people, but we work with minimal Babus, where the touch point with the patients has got a bit higher order, but use technology as a backbone to kind of give out a lot of services. So that's the kind of a story we have had. That's the kind of story we believe in. We're going to be pioneering in the future as well.
Hey, great, Rajneesh. A completely new theme, right? Continuum care. When we met up the first time, and I really got to hear about it. But a lot of people are moving into it. They want it, and that's why I think the buying behavior that Deepak spoke about is coming into play.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to Dr. Dhruv. Doctor, by professional doctor, now running a technology firm. How has it been? How has you been adopting to technology? What do you see as a future in this space? How are customers, patients, doctors looking at it?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Dr. Kumar. Firstly, I'd like to just make a slight correction. I think it sounds very sexy to say you're a technology firm, but I'll tell you, healthcare delivery is complex. It's operationally complex, right? And technology in and of itself is not generally going to solve any of your problems. So we like to call ourselves more of a healthcare solution company. Yes, we are all about technology and completely technology enabled, but we realize that with delivery, especially in the space of high acuity care, there are so many touch points, so many stakeholders that it requires an operational framework for the technology to be successful. And that's where we've sort of come in and found our space. So I think when I think about what we're doing and why we set out to do what we're doing is just having been a healthcare provider for a long time. Two things that were sort of apparent to me, and actually my co-founder Dilip was also a physician. One was the current construct of the hospitals as they stand today. Deepak also mentioned, needs to move towards working smarter, right? So I think one sort of trend that we find is that hospitals will work smarter in ensuring the optimal care for their patients, and ensuring that they are sort of optimized in terms of how they work, and will move towards higher acuity care, procedural related care, and sort of then you have the entire continuum of care where Rajneesh and home care and all of these sort of come in to ensure not just optimal outcomes for patients, but optimal experience both for patients and for providers, right? So I think that's one thing that was obvious. The second was that in the current construct of how healthcare delivery is done, there are so many gaps, right? So many gaps where technology can be leveraged to further streamline things. Everything from improving operational efficiency of hospitals to improving the quality of care and ensuring access at in a value-based manner for patients, right? So I think that was generally the theme behind which we decided to start Cloud Physician. But we also realized just putting together some technologies not going to solve this problem, but how do we create reimagine the way in which healthcare is delivered, and marry technology, marry clinical services, put in an operational construct that will allow patients to get better quality of care, that will allow providers to get a better experience in delivering care, get administrators the operational efficiency in the hospitals that they need. And that's how Cloud Physician came about. Now, this is something that we started doing in 2017, and our domain expertise being in the critical care space. I'm an intensivist. We realized that we can do this in the ICU space. And we had been doing this for a couple of years till COVID was upon us. And then clearly the problem statement that we were dealing with was sort of, exacerbated significantly. Now, there's the low-hanging fruit where it's simple enough, right? Where you realize that, hey, you know what? There's COVID, there's a pandemic, you want to manage somebody remotely, you sort of have them dial in, and you can actually provide them the care that they need in the comfort of their home. That, I would say, that's the sort of low-hanging fruit. But then how do you pervasively change the system and pervasively start incorporating technology in your operational workflows to really drive patient quality and the kind of operational efficiency that you need? Because at the end of the day, expertise is limited. People are going to be limited. Your best doctors are going to be at a few centers. The most trained people are going to be at a few places. And we clearly know that does not address public health at large. So how do you sort of ensure that you take care of patients that need access to the expertise, and yet do it in a value-based way by leveraging technology? I think that's been the journey that we've been on, and we've been doing this for a while. Of course, COVID has brought about a fair amount of awareness about this. We've been able to demonstrate improved outcomes, demonstrated by everything from compliance to standard of care protocols to reduction in mortality rates. And also what technology does, it just creates a framework of accountability which previously did not exist, right? So you don't really, when you go into an airplane, you have a black box and you have everything here. You have an accountable system. In healthcare, very often you're actually going into similar sort of critical situations without that framework of accountability in place. And having technology there can actually ensure that we do that, to ensure better outcomes for patients. So that's been the journey so far, and it's been quite interesting.
Hey, thanks, Dhruv. Clearly, point that comes around is making sure operational efficiency is there and superior patient experience. So, Sharbel, from an Honeywell perspective, you've looking at the healthcare space globally. You've heard our other panelists, so would like to hear your comments.
I heard a very in-depth analysis from Deepak in relation to how the COVID-19 had a positive impact on the healthcare. And this is where technology providers like Honeywell can come into the play. So if you think about an enhanced awareness of people accepting getting diagnosed remotely through telemedicine, remote patient monitoring, etc. So the first shift, this is a paradigm shift. And the doctors know that it took probably 10 years from telehealth technology existence until the adoption that you see today. And that was due to COVID-19 because the capacity imbalance forced the care organizations into deploying this very fast to cope with what's happening in COVID. So the awareness accelerated the adoption of new technologies. And it's mentioned already that if you look at the online consultation that happened the last 1 year or 2 years, compared to the last 10 years, the number is self-explanatory. So for us, from a technology provider, to implement that, you need technology. You need a two-end of communication that connects the patient and the care organization and the care team within the care organization. And that requires a complicated, synchronized workflow optimization. Drew mentioned this, and this is very, very much right. You might think that this is a straightforward approach. It's not, and it might differ from organization to organization, from hospital to hospital. What we're doing, we are, as much as we can, trying to localize the technology that we have in terms of processes and workflow to be adaptive by the local communities and local care organization protocols and processes based on the technical capabilities that we have in terms of software development, integration with enabling partners, because that's another element of the technology. Today, when you think about what Rajneesh service has been provided, and going back to Deepak's point about the necessity of electronic medical record instead of the papers and the records paper-based, so we need, as a technology provider, to be in a connection with the enabling partners in the healthcare ecosystem. And this is what we're doing. So if you look at the real-time health system, and that in the keynote Ajaya spoke about. So this is a combination of ecosystem integration with the hospital information system and medical record, plus an vertical integration throughout the communication channels in order to reach the patient wherever they are. And the outcome is for physicians and doctors in a hospital to be able monitoring vital signs, EKG measurements for patients that are outside. So this is another shift in the awareness that Rajneesh spoke about. So we're trying to take through technology the awareness that been already provided or forced through the pandemic in order to enhance the consumer behavior toward the new care service model that is in place today. And this is a win-win situation for everyone, for care organizations, for the care team, for the patient, for technology providers. And yes, I agree with Drew. The definition of a smart hospital changed. So smart hospital today is not the hospital that has extensive technologies that few people know how to use in a hospital. To more, a smart hospital would be, this is the hospital where you spend less amount of time as a patient. You go in, you go out very fast, the minimum amount of time. So this is where I think from the RTHS, from the internal communication, nurse call system advanced, connected all together with the other ecosystem solutions that would participate as a supporting pillar to deliver the new post-COVID care service model.
I agree, Shabal. So kind of what comes across the discussion is technology is imperative. We need to adopt it. And that's what's going to kind of give you better operational efficiencies and better, superior patient care, and especially knowing that we have challenges. But the big question is around adoption. So a quick one word from each of the panelists in terms of what do you think is the major challenge in adopting to technology? Is there something that's stopping us, or it's an imperative we just got to go? So quickly, Deepak, starting with you. What's your take on adoption of technology?
So I think Sharbel, as well as all of us have been talking about this. That it's more of an industry approach, in my view, Nandakumar. I think, see, today, if you had to pull out any of these car-selling auto magazines, right, and they would give you data on number of Mercedes that was sold in the month of, say, September. And if I had to say how many cardiac surgeries happened, say, in the month of September in the city of Bangalore, I wouldn't have a repository to refer to, right? I think it is so much to do with the industry to kind of get into this platform wherein each of the ecosystem players start contributing it either as a mandate or as a patient services, that everybody starts talking to each other. So I think that's where the adoption becomes a bit of an issue, because of course the government is pushing now a digital health initiative wherein it's trying to mandate that all of us. I mean, vaccination is a great example. I think today you can port your vaccination records across multiple segments, right? But when it comes to say somebody who has been a part of Dhruv's treatment plan in his entity, if they had to come to a Manipal tomorrow, I mean, how does that data talk to each other? How does it go to, say, a rehab program with Rajneesh on the other end? I think that's where we are going to be fighting our little battles to sort this out, because it is still a industry which does believe that it's working in silos, if there's a right word. But as a large network, when we have 27 hospitals today, it's a little easier for us because we can network the entire patient journey through these hospitals, through these different episodes of treatment that they come to. But I think that's something which we'll have to address. But I wouldn't call it much of a challenge, but I think it's a problem area we all need to solve. But it's really exciting times ahead for healthcare, in my view, Nandu, and I think we're all looking forward to be a part of this change, because if you don't, we'll perish soon. So we have to adopt anyways.
Hey, thanks, Deepak. Rajneesh, your comments?
On challenges, Nandu, the biggest challenge, I echo kind of what Dhruv said earlier. It's not about putting all technologies into one place and just say, okay, here's something very good technologies over here, start adopting it. It's not going to happen that way. What starts with from day one is that it's a patient experience journey, right? That is something that needs to be mapped out. And you need to take baby steps over here. You don't have to necessarily go out and buy all the solutions and then say that we're a technology-focused service company or something like that. For us, from day one, it has always been, how do you map the patient journey from the hospital to the home, or from home to the hospital, and then to our center for caring. So to that extent, you talk of technology at the back end, which will keep the processes very simple. Matters like CRM, which is very, very common in the enterprise segments, bringing that over here into its full entirety itself is a very, very great thing that kind of improves the back-end processes and also the patient outcomes to a large extent from a concierge perspective. Second is, of course, the various tools available from the cases of, say, augmented reality or artificial intelligence, which can talk to various other systems of startups. And we kind of incubate a lot of startups in our company, where we try to kind of help see to it that some of the solutions that are good for rehabilitation, recuperation are brought together. They can talk to each other. How do you take smarter decisions, and how can you communicate those smarter decisions in real time with the treating physicians so that the patient outcomes will improve? So that is the second element, which has come to the maintenance of it. And third, of course, is predictability. Can you predict what is going to happen next? Because you have all these fantastic solutions which monitors the vitals and all that. But there's no point in getting a postman kind of technology solution. You need a solution which will harness the data available and then tell you with reasonable certainty that this is something that's a likely outcome of this particular patient, and this particular patient has been taken care of this manner. For me, technology has played that kind of a role and will always be that kind of a role. But the rest of the noise is something that we need to cut off, which we have successfully done so far. But it's a three-part journey. The pre, which is the journey itself captured via the backend CRM, then the data mining that we currently do, and then the predictability tools that we're building in. Towards technology is that.
Hey, thank you, Rajneesh. I think very valid point, right? Taking those baby steps and weaving that together. So Dhruv, adoption.
Yeah, I think you bring what you're talking about is where the rubber hits the road, Nandkumar, at the end of the day, right? That's what we're talking about. So I think it's we can sort of talk about the 30,000 foot view and it's all rosy and hunky dory, and we know that's the direction we need to go in. That's the vision, etc. All of that is already established. So now, how do we actually move that needle in that direction? Is where the rubber hits the road, and I think it's really important, concept, and we should think about this a little bit. I think it's incumbent both on the healthcare providers, the solution providers, to be able to prioritize this movement, right? Because see, at the end of the day, Deepak's managing 11 hospitals. He's got a lot of priorities. There's a lot of established ways of functioning of doctors, nurses, etc. Now you try and change that around. That's not an easy task. That is operationally very, very complex, right? And that applies to any hospital or any healthcare provider, right? Anywhere. And so how do you make this a priority, understanding that this is going to give you value at the end of the day, right? So that is, I think it comes down to leadership at both levels. Solution providers like us, we need to be able to convince any healthcare provider, whether it's Deepak or somebody else, that you're going to see value here. This is the value you see in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term. But this is what you need to do to realize that value. And this is what you need to prioritize, and that's going to involve a fair bit, right? So it's incumbent upon us, for example, to ensure the user experience for providers and patients is seamless, because otherwise it's going to be a problem for any healthcare leader to tell doctors and nurses, change the way you're doing things, if his patient or his doctor or his nurse does not like the way. So that's on us. At the same time, it's incumbent on the leadership at the provider, at the healthcare providers to realize that this is a important enough priority for us to focus on, that we're going to actually put some muscle behind it, right? We're going to make this a priority. We're going to let our team know. Let's create an atmosphere and an environment where we sort of bring everybody on board, but don't just do it in the sense that we'll try it out, we'll see how it goes, and 2 days later, if something happens, we'll sort of shelve it. That's not really making this a priority. So I think there's a fair bit of change that needs to take place, and it needs to come from all ends, right? So whether Honeywell's building the solutions, like how do you ensure that you make it easier for providers to adopt that solution, and providers to sort of realize that this is a priority and I need to put some muscle in this. I know I've got things to worry about. I know that there's established things that things are going, and perhaps my month end and quarter end of what I'm doing is a priority number one. But how do I at the same time make this a priority to ensure that 3 months, 6 months, 5 years, 10 years down the line, I am providing the patients what I need to. So I think that's where the adoption piece comes in. And I think everybody needs to understand that this is where the rubber hits the road, and this is it's incumbent on everybody to sort of step up and be like, okay, there's value in this, and I think we need to demonstrate the value, and not just you can't just say that, hey, do this, and 5 years, 10 years down the line you'll benefit. You actually need to show people that there's a trajectory here. This is what you can expect in 3 months, in 6 months, in 12 months, in 24, in 5 years and in 10 years. It's really important if we are going to see this adoption take place. It's going to be important for us to bring everybody on board.
True. I think the point is setting up key milestones for the ecosystem to kind of progress, and how do we show value in each of those milestones is going to be key. And Sharbel, last to you. We have less time, but quick take from your end.
What I would like to say, generally speaking, we are ready from a technology standpoint to bring the extensive years that we had in operational efficiency, data intelligence, to the extent of what the healthcare vertical requires today from all the other industries that it's already implemented there. So if you talk oil and gas, we have been there for data intelligence since ever. And if you talk about oil and gas, then e-commerce for the last 15 years, Honeywell, from a technology's point of view, was one of the main pillars pushing this solution to the globe as well. Today, we are, and this panel is part of what we are doing, listening to our counterparts from technology providers and for care organization, care team providers, the service providers, to listen what is their actual need today, what is their capabilities, and at the same time convert that into the technology modeling that would serve the exact need that they are looking at today and for the next 10 years. The positive side of it, and again, that's a very inspirational thing, is that you can see out of something which is so bad, the COVID-19, you can see that it has some positive impact, and this impact will definitely has a long-term positive impact on the general population health management. If you're talking chronic disease management, remote patient management, all of this, that will enhance the person well-being. After all, we are all patients. You are born in a hospital and until the last day of your life. So you start consuming healthcare from 0 day of your life. So today we are ready to convert the required steps defined by care organization, healthcare leaders, into actual technology that would deliver the value intended, both at the patient level in terms of care, and also on the economic performance of the hospitals themselves and care organizations.
Hey, thank you, Sharbel. So really coming to the end of the discussion, I think the biggest takeaway for me, or for most of us, would be, one, technology is clearly a step that we all need to take, I think, but as we all spoke about adoption, it's going to be key that we start taking those baby steps. And I think today is a day when Honeywell has taken that baby step in India around the RTHS vision that we have in monitoring real-time healthcare. And I think going forward, as most of you said, right, it's about integrating the various facets of healthcare into one and kind of get a solution approach. And that's where the ecosystem we spoke about. How do you develop that ecosystem that would adopt to technology? So clearly, from Honeywell standpoint, I think we are ready for it. As Sharbel said, we have started working in the direction, and hopefully with partnering with all the various stakeholders, kind of build a very good, healthy healthcare ecosystem for superior patient care. So with that closing comments, I really thank each of my panelists, Deepak, Rajneesh, Dhruv, Sharbel. Thank you for taking the time out, and really appreciate for your good, valuable insights. So thank you. With that, see you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a terrific discussion and so much learning for us all. My biggest takeaway from the panel discussion is that our panelists are part of the avant-garde of those championing and accelerating the adoption of digital technology in healthcare. Their discussion showcases the fact that what we think of as the future of healthcare is here now, and they are the ones making it possible to improve access to high-quality healthcare by leveraging technology. Thank you so much to our panelists and to Nanda for moderating. Folks, that brings us to the conclusion of the conclave. Thank you so much for being a part of the future of healthcare powered by Honeywell. Let me invite Samuel Pratap, President of Honeywell Technology Solutions, to make the closing remarks. Sam leads the 5,500 people engineering technology research and development resources of Honeywell across its centers in India, the Czech Republic, and Mexico to support the company growth, especially in high-growth regions. He is responsible for building the structure and strategy to grow Honeywell Technology Solutions' value to Honeywell, leveraging the organization's scale, footprint, and technology depth. The HTS sites are engaged in developing a unique and innovative portfolio of new products and engineering solutions that enable Honeywell's breakthrough growth and meet the needs of its global base. Prior to Honeywell, Sam spent more than 29 years in the Indian Air Force in diverse assignments that spanned engineering systems and management functions and responsibilities in aerospace and IT. With that, let me sign off and welcome Sam for his closing remarks. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Aditi. Well, I must say it was truly inspiring and thought-provoking to hear all the esteemed speakers who took part in this first ever conclave on future of healthcare powered by Honeywell. The recent months have made us realize the importance of health and healthcare. More specifically, the second wave, which was an eye-opener and a definitive reminder that healthcare must be prioritized individually, institutionally, and as a country. As innovators and technologists, we were driven by an intense desire to engage and make an impact to boost the healthcare infrastructure, as well as provide our frontline workers the much needed products, solutions, and technology support. Today is a momentous day for us at Honeywell, as we take yet another step towards shaping the future of healthcare through advanced technology solutions. Our real-time health monitoring system, launched today, is a revolutionary solution that will allow us to make life for our frontline workers easy, better efficiency, and enhance patient care. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our esteemed industry guests. We've been privileged to have three pioneering stalwarts amongst us that inspire us to revolutionize the life sciences space. Let me thank Dr. Devi Shetty, Chairman and Executive Director, Narayana Health, a pioneer and a visionary in the healthcare space. His guidance will be key for us to ever evolve and stay focused in driving innovation for better patient care. Padma Shri Awardee Dr. T.V. Mohandas Pai, Chairman, RN Capital Partners, is a trailblazer in enabling advanced technology for life sciences and is an enthusiastic researcher. He provokes us to use technology for good, especially in the space of life sciences. Gautam Khanna, Chief Executive Officer, PD Hinduja Hospital and Medical Research Center, yet another mentor who has inspired us today with his vision of transforming the healthcare space in mobilizing better patient care to tackle future pandemics. I thank all our panelists for the discussion and for enlightening us with their thoughts and vision. Deepak Venugopalan, Regional Chief Operating Officer, Manipal Health Enterprises, Rajnish M, CEO, Sukino Healthcare Solutions, Dr. Dhruv Joshi, Co-founder and CEO, Cloud Physician, and my colleagues at Honeywell, Charvel and Nandakumar. I believe many good experiences have been shared and great lessons learned. It's an honor for me to represent Honeywell, a Fortune 100 software industry leader that delivers industry-specific solutions which include aerospace products, control technologies for buildings, and high-performance materials that make the world connected, smarter, safer, and more sustainable. Honeywell has invested in the key technologies that envision the future of healthcare and will continue to drive this transformation for the betterment of society. With rapid innovation, the future of healthcare is already here, and we are proud of leading this space at Honeywell. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Honeywell, I would like to thank each of you for taking part in this interesting session on the future of healthcare. Thank you very much.